What they say is, if you have KL mayor elections, a Chinese will win. But let's say, even if you go by that far-fetched theory that every Chinese will only vote for a Chinese, you can't win on that basis alone because the Chinese are the minority compared to the Malays in KL today.
The second part I want to talk about is the National Education Blueprint.
A couple of things that worries me about this. The runway is very short. Classrooms, you got to build physical classrooms in many cases, Teacher, you can transfer. Classroom, you cannot transfer. You need to build a structure.
Hi, welcome back to another episode of Are We OK Season 2 together with myself, Peter.
Hi, and I'm Rajiv.
Alright, so Rajiv, how have you been? It's been 2 weeks that we haven't done this podcast.
Well, it's been, I had a 1 week trip to Singapore. It was a 1 week course in public housing.
Ooh.
And so, as with all of these kind of trips, it just means double work. Because while I am doing that work overseas, I also have my PJ work running on as always.
Right.
Replying people, returning calls, answering emails. And so it is always a lot more tiring whenever I do these kind of overseas work trips. But it's okay. It's all part and parcel of life and the job. Good to have discussions with people from 29 countries who have come in for this 1 week session on public housing.
I like the idea that you went for a course that talks about public housing in the policy perspective and building perspective, right?
Absolutely, policy perspective.
Yeah, maybe can you share with us, right? What's one thing that you think Malaysia can take away on the public housing policies that can make it a better place for the people?
I think maybe the one big thing is the way they structure their pricing for the affordable housing in Singapore. The HDB flats for Singaporeans is actually very affordable for Singaporeans. Not affordable for PRs, not so affordable for foreigners. In fact, very expensive for foreigners to get housing in Singapore in the private market. But the HDB, they have tiered their pricing in a way that no one has to pay more than 25% of their salary for housing. And by any first world standard, in fact, even by Malaysian standard, I think a lot of Malaysians would be happy if they can get quality housing without having to pay more than 25% of their salary. Yeah. And this is not rental, this is ownership. That, you get to have appreciation on the value, and Singapore government has been very careful to make sure that your property always appreciates.
Yeah.
But let's say putting appreciation aside or speculation of appreciation aside, you can actually get to own quality housing with less than 25% of your salary.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. I think I just want to draw back a little bit on my previous visit to Singapore, right? So last year I had a visit as part of the Malaysia Journalist Visitation Program to Singapore. And one of the things that they did is that they showed us around their public housing. And I thought one of the effort was really, really interesting, right? Which is the fact that they acknowledge that nowadays they are entering into an aging society.
Yes.
And therefore what happened is that many elderlies will have to think about retirement. So they started building HDB project, public housing project, where the lease term is shorter, like 20 years or 30 years, catering for retirees. So retirees who actually own a house can actually, after their kids move out, everything, they don't need such a big place.
They
can downsize. They can sell it off, they can have extra money, and then they can buy a 20, 30 year lease house at a way cheaper price. And the whole building structure, everything, all it's built for retirees itself, right? You're talking about having panic button in
the bathroom,
yes. In different areas. And on top of that, instead of a bird eye hole at the door, they actually have like a wider space. So when people pass by, they can check to see whether are you alive or not, right?
Yes.
Yeah, things like that. And they even built in healthcare together as part of
There's
it.
a small window in the door.
Yes.
And yes, part of this 1 week was to look at this show unit.
Oh.
So yes, I got to visit this senior apartment.
Yeah, senior living.
Living apartment. The bathroom doors are very wide. The bedroom doors are very wide. It's not your standard condo kind of design. It was part of the visit. I mean, 1 week is a lot of things that we can see, and this is one of the things that we saw. I think that's great. Something we should emulate as well.
That's right. I think, however, here's the challenge, right? Because in order to do all this, it's also part and parcel of having a well-rounded government approach, a whole of government approach, rather than a single like a housing side. Then we do the housing part. And the other thing is that why do I say that? Is because they acknowledge the fact that for most Singaporean, or just as most of us, any average people, our biggest wealth is actually tied with the property we own. And this gives them the avenue to actually free up their capital.
I mean, only in Asian societies.
Yeah, only in Asian societies.
European societies, they don't buy. They
Yeah,
just
correct.
rent their whole life. Yeah.
But among us,
Yes.
Malaysians and
Singaporean.
Singaporeans, Asians, we typically, a lot of our wealth is being tied to a property. And
Yes.
for them, this gives them the avenue to kind of sell it off, and yet at the same time, still have a home. Because this is the discussion that we hear time to time with many Malaysians as well, is that it's not that I got no wealth, is that if I sell my house, where can I buy another house? And I can't be renting at that age, right? Because I want security as well. So I do realize that that is something that they have come up with an approach, maybe not perfect, but at least they are doing something at the government level to tackle this issue. Yeah, so quite impressed.
So every day from 9 to 5, housing. It's a very big immersion in all their policy, pricing strategies, their successes, their challenges, what not to learn. But then after 5, I became a tour guide to introduce people from around the world who quite a lot of them never been to Asia before, Singapore before. A lot of wonderful Malaysian food, Singapore version, but emphasizing that a lot of Malaysian heritage in the middle of it all.
So you're one of those who are, you should try this. But at the same time, you should try the one in Johor soon, right? It's way better.
Yes, I did show them because one of our visits was to Woodlands, and so I could point out JB to them. It's just there.
Yeah, but sounds good. Yeah. Fantastic. Hopefully that can be brought into the PJ structure one day, because I think PJ is also facing a lot of aging issues.
Actually, the government policy doesn't put any obstacle on any developer building this. It is the free will of any private property developer to venture into this, whether it's on a 30-year lease scheme or an outright sale. Private developers in Malaysia can embark on this. And you have seen developers express interest, but it is not quite taken off. Maybe they don't have the confidence that there's enough buyers to buy them. But it is nothing. There is nothing in our provisions of any law that is an obstacle to any of these developers to go ahead and embark on building these units.
That's right. Yeah, I think like you say, it's more about an educational issue. And here's the thing that's quite interesting about the Singapore government, because population is also not very big, right? So for them to educate the people as a whole is just educating a city in that sense. Yeah,
It's easier to do. The society is more homogeneous. More same wavelength with one another. So it might be easier when it comes to public education. But I think the other thing is they are the biggest developer, the government. HDB builds 80% of all the homes in Singapore, and the government is the biggest developer in Singapore.
Yes.
So we don't see the private sector racing to build this in Singapore as well. It's the government that's building this.
Yes.
And but the problem we have in Malaysia is that we don't have an equivalent government arm that does this on such a scale.
Yeah. But I think it'll be very interesting if you all can bring that back and see how to adapt this for a local strategy as well, right? Especially like when we talk about PJ area, like your area especially, it's an aging
Society.
aging society
Indeed.
as well.
Indeed.
So really looking forward to see what we can do for
Okay.
our people as well.
All right.
Now, nonetheless, just an update. I went to China and back. 1 week there in Shenzhen. I've always heard that China is very advanced. Until I go there, I realize how advanced they are.
Okay.
Yes, it's a whole different level. I'm starting to realize that
Was 5G on your phone much faster?
it's not about the 5G is much faster, but here's a more realization, right? I realized that if you go to somewhere like America, if someone creates something, they protect it, right? And it becomes like, hey, these guys are doing it. But in China, there's no shame in copying lah. That's number one. So there's this thing that goes where if you create something, by the next week, your neighbors are all doing the exact same thing. And they could be doing even better than you. Right? So suddenly when you go China, the ability to do tech, the ability to come out with an innovation, it is very commoditized. Because unlike in US or anywhere else, if you come and attack, people protect it. Like, hey, you shouldn't be copying. There's that pride. Right? In China, no shame, man. Let's just copy. Let's just innovate. And you'll be surprised to see many tech that come out in US within the next 2 months, it is in China and they do it even better. So for example, when we talk about like AI bots, training, talk about voice imitation, it is so good. It is so good. And you thought that it is this company doing it only? No, you take a stone throw, right? Probably
So many.
who can do the exact same ability. You're just waiting another 2 months, the whole street can do it. So, so I was chatting with a friend of mine, right? So I was saying that these days China is very good at adapting people's technology and making it even better than the originator of the technology. So, and a lot of people say that Chinese is copying. And this friend actually said this one thing that like, I thought, totally aligns with me. He said, hey, let's not forget, last time when Chinese culture, back then in the dynasty era, they also come out with a lot of original intention. But it's the Western country that go over there and they copy many of this technology and they made it even more advanced than China ever did. For example, gunpowder, right? China created the first cannon and they made it into rifles, right? We talk about wheels. China built the first wheel push car and they made electric motor vehicles, right? And paper technology,
Right.
So suddenly it just went a full cycle, right? Yeah. When a country is willing to copy and innovate, and eventually you become the more powerful player. And I was just thinking, even Meta does the exact same thing, right? In fact, Mark Zuckerberg has this very famous quote in his office at one point. He was just telling people, no shame, just copy. Yeah. And that's why you see Instagram has stories and everything, and they maintain their dominance because they were willing to put that aside. Now, I'm not saying copying is good. Let's put it this way. It needs to come with an ethical bounds, right? That's a question for another day. But I'm just sharing with you what I've observed.
It blew your mind.
Yes, when I went to China and something I learned. So just the last one to actually tie it all off, right?
Okay.
So recently I decided to buy AI note taker.
Okay.
Right? So it's called Plot. Plaud.
All right.
Right? Within the next few days, it came out on my Taobao. There's a China version called Piaud. Piaud. It's the exact same thing, right?
Right,
It looks almost the same. And somehow they compare it with you and they say, Plot need you to pay subscription. Piaud no need you to pay subscription.
Okay.
So, I just thought it's really, really interesting. Yeah.
Such is life, man.
Such is life, yeah. So,
Alright.
no, nonetheless, over the last 2 weeks when we are not around, I think there were more interesting stories that came up. So, what is one issue that resounds to you closely this time around?
I think today the hottest issue is the KL mayoral election. Are we going to see elections come out in KL? All right. Well, so what happened was Hannah, the Minister for Federal Territories, gave an interview. And in that interview, she talked about the study being done to look at the possibility of introducing elections for the mayor position. And not surprising, the minute this got out there in the news, it reacted a firestorm of responses from many parties that have been historically against local government elections. So you got UMNO coming out, you got PAS coming out, speaking out against it, and then you've got many people coming out defending the idea of it. So Peter, maybe before I dive into my opinions, as a resident in the Klang Valley, what do you think of the prospect of elections for the mayor of KL or elections of any sort for local government?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer of election for mayor because I feel that mayor are one of the people who are very closely related to the ground, right? Exactly what's going to happen, like the guy who's going to chop my tree and so on. It's all, mayor is like the manager, put this way, or the GM of an estate. So I think we should vote for people who will do the work. So actually, I've never understand what kind of reasons can you be opposed to elect a mayor?
Well, interestingly enough, there has been this opposition from the 60s when we suspended local government elections until today. Every time someone talks about bringing it back, there's been opposition. So what we can see this round, basically three things.
Right. Can I just stop you there for a while, right? You were saying that before the 60s, there was actually
Yeah.
elections.
Yes. Oh, you didn't know?
I didn't know.
Okay, there was.
Tell us a little bit of background.
All right, so God knows how long, but okay, maybe from 100 years ago, the British started some form of local government elections. This was not absolute power devolved to the elected representatives,
Right.
but there was some form of elections in Penang and also in KL.
Oh.
And local government elections were suspended in the 60s in the name of dealing with the confrontation with Indonesia.
Right.
And then it never came back.
I see.
So
okay.
from time to time, there have been parties calling for the reintroduction of local government elections to all the cities, all the councils in
Right.
this country. And I think namely DAP has been in the forefront calling for this.
Right.
So there's always been a very vocal opposition to that. And once again, this vocal opposition has returned today when Hannah Yeoh talked about doing a study. She didn't even announce bringing back elections to KL. She's talked about doing a study to on the possibility of bringing back.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, what is this opposition now? Because again, right, if it already happened before and it was during confrontasi,
Yes.
and now we're definitely not in confrontasi,
Yes.
what
What could possibly be the reasons? So,
Yeah.
if you look at the statements from UMNO and PAS over the last 1 to 2 days, basically the biggest and the far most common reason that is cited is racial issues.
Okay, what has this got to do with racial?
What they say is, if you have local government elections, if you have KL mayor elections, a Chinese will win. So, Peter, what do you think? And then, no, they say when the Chinese wins, the Malays will be oppressed in the city.
Number one, I think if there's an election, I have doubts that the Chinese will definitely win. Number two,
Why you have such doubts
I mean,
on your fellow Chinese?
The racial part doesn't even cross my mind. Again, I'm looking at it from a very urban lens.
Yeah.
Now, number two, I don't think so. And what kind of basis makes you think that Chinese will definitely win?
Well, this is, I think, what the problem was. 50 years ago, 30 years ago, okay, it's true. You have maybe more Chinese than Malays living in KL. And the same goes for some other big cities like Penang, Ipoh, and so on. But over the last 20 years, demographics have changed. And so right now, year 2026, this is not true anymore in KL.
Yeah.
In KL, the Malays have outnumbered the Chinese in terms of the people living in KL.
That's right.
And so, yes, once upon a time, that was the case 50 years ago. And so, if we go on the assumption that every Chinese will only vote for a Chinese, something which has been proven to be not the case in all the general elections.
Yeah.
So, it's a fallacy to think that every Chinese will only vote for a Chinese. But let's say, even if you go by that far-fetched theory that every Chinese will only vote for a Chinese, you can't win on that basis alone because the Chinese are the minority compared to the Malays in KL today.
So I don't agree with it. I mean, I don't agree with their statement.
I don't agree with their statement. You don't agree with their statement.
No, number one, you're right. I think, yes, there's a lot more Bhumis today in terms of population composition. Number two as well, even if there are more Chinese, we have seen many places, just talk about Bandar Utama. Jamalia. Just Malay. You just talk about Damansara. The winner is
Gobind.
Gobind Singh. It's not even a Chinese.
Yes.
They pitch a Chinese again.
I mean, you want to say like that? I represent Bukit
You-
Gasing.
Yeah, correct. So
Bukit Gasing, that is 70% Chinese.
yeah, and when Kian Ming stepped down,
Yes.
it was Sharizan, right?
Sharizan replaced
Sharizan
him.
replaced him. So I have doubts.
That Chinese in Malaysia will vote strictly on a racial line.
That's right.
And if Chinese were to vote strictly on the racial line, I would not have been able to win the last 3 elections
That's
in
right.
Bukit Gasing.
And even if that works,
Yes.
there's not enough Chinese to vote lah. In my
Yeah,
opinion.
even if that is the argument, there's not enough
there's
Chinese.
not enough Chinese.
So unless all the Malays stay home and don't come out to vote, and only Chinese come out to vote, it cannot happen like that.
Okay.
So it is a fallacy, an argument in fallacy. There's no basis to it. There's no likelihood of it. But because it's racial sentiment, it is so easy to keep stirring that pot.
Right.
And
I
that's so
see.
unfortunate that politicians today are still playing the same old racial game. Akmal, I'm calling you out on it. But not just Akmal, many other leaders from UMNO and PAS have come out to make similar statements. So this racial fear-mongering should end. Make actual real arguments against local government elections if you really don't believe in it. But this is a very nonsensical
Okay.
argument. And I think this is something both of us agree
Yeah.
on. So, Peter, can you guess what the other two reasons that have come up in these last 2 days?
I can't guess,
You
man.
can't guess? Come, let me bring you into the other two reasons that they cite. The second reason they cited is, this was from a past leader. The mayor of KL will be confused. Who does he listen to? If they are elected councillors, they are also elected members of parliament, and then there's the federal government, then what will the mayor, who will he listen to in making decisions?
Huh?
Peter, what do you think of such an argument?
I think in that case, then you can say Adun, everyone also should be confused, right?
Yeah lah.
And I mean, at the end of the day, I feel, I'm not sure. I feel the mayor role is a more executive role where your job is to do work,
Yeah.
not so you do work for the people in that sense.
So, if his argument is to hold any water, then in Kelantan, where PAS has been the government since 1990, you have elected aduns, you have your mayors in all the local councils, you have councillors in all the local councils, you have your past member of parliaments, you have your past senators. Then how the mayors in Kelantan function? They're not confused. Sir. Why you think the mayor of KL will be confused and all your mayors in Kelantan can function just fine? I think it's also, once again, very weak, nonsensical.
Right.
Well, people think they can just oppose and not give any solid argument and people buy it. But this is the statements that are being picked up in the media.
I see. That was the third one.
Oh, the third one is even more interesting. I never thought I would read a politician making a statement like this. The third reason given by an UMNO veteran politician is that there are a lot of underworld gangsters, black market in KL. And if you have elections in KL for the local government, these underworld will come and pour in money and influence the outcome of the election campaign. What do you think, Peter?
I think if it happens, I think that would happen to general election, state election, every single election. And in my opinion, I think your concern is not so much about underlord. I think big corporates will be the one pouring in money to help to sponsor many politicians.
I
right?
think all the property
So
developers will enter.
I think that's again another nonsensical thing.
I agree with you, Peter. I think it's very nonsensical. We would have to do away with all elections if this is the basis
correct.
to not have the KL
Might as well just
election.
appoint from the beginning itself, right? Yeah, every single one appoint.
Yeah. So, I mean, the concerns of underworld getting involved and influencing elections, I think this should be addressed. But this is not a reason to hold back on KL mayoral elections. And this whole idea of confusion, it really cannot apply because you've got every other state in the country functioning with two elected layers of government and a third unelected government. But every other state has got two layers of elected government. I don't see any other Menteri Besar confused because he got Adun on one hand and he got elected members of parliament in his state on the other hand.
Yeah, I don't think it makes sense. And may I ask you, right?
Yes.
If you were to take us behind the curtains and look at it, what do you think is the real reason of this, right? There has to be a real reason, right, that people are opposed to it.
Okay, so
Or is it just customary?
actually, I think I have an interesting answer to that. So, I did my master's in public administration. And for my thesis, I chose this topic, local government elections.
Ooh,
Yes.
okay.
So I had to do an academically supervised study, not just scoring in the mamak shop, but I had to do academically supervised interviews and study and finally write my thesis, which I got an A for, by the way, on local government elections and why and who supports it and who is against it and why they are against it. And in talking to politicians across the political divide, especially the Malay-based parties that are the ones coming out today to voice their opposition, the answer when you dig deeper and deeper inside, has all come down to the same conclusion, which is don't want to devolve power, don't want to let go power. Because if the Menteri Besar if there's local government elections, the Menteri Besar will not have the ultimate control over all the local councils. Whereas today, every Menteri Besar has power over the respective local councils.
Right.
Same thing goes at the federal government. Prime Minister has control over the mayor of KL. Very, very high control. Can you imagine anything that Prime Minister has a feeling about? Okay, I want to do this, I want to do that. I just call the mayor. Sure, he will do. He is a very senior civil servant in the government hierarchy with a very clear boss. And if the minister call him, Prime Minister or the Minister for Federal Territories call him and say, do this, do that, he will do. The Prime Minister says, you know what, there need to be more palm trees. The roads need to be lined up with palm trees. Palm trees are the way to go. All the palm trees will come on the road. But more importantly, if the minister or the Prime Minister needs some favor done, like, okay, you need to solve this business having this problem there, the mayor will listen and do it. And the mayor will be very responsive first and foremost to his actual boss, so Prime Minister. And if you have local government elections, then the mayor will not have to respond. Because, okay Prime Minister, you think like that, good for you, but that's not really my criteria. Because in the end of the day, I will win or lose based on
The votes.
the votes from KL people. And then the ability to control your mayors, not just in KL, but in all over the country, will diminish by the respective chief ministers.
Right.
And this is ultimately the crux of the problem.
Right.
To let go the power.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's one thing to call for it, okay? And that's why you see the only one party has consistently and strongly called for it, which is the DAP. And personally, I know many people in DAP who still very much believe in local government elections. It's just that we are in the coalition and we need to move together in the coalition. But this is why the others, PAS, UMNO, Barisan Nasional, has been reluctant to go back down this path. Because once they suspended local government elections, which means they assume the power and they enjoy the influence, now to let it go again is difficult.
Right.
And you must also think within the political party. Right now, your political party juniors are appointed into positions in the local council. All the councillors are basically your party members, right? They are your juniors. And because their appointment is the appointment is decided by you, renewed by you as the party leader, they are all very loyal. Doesn't mean they won't speak out. We have so much of history of in Selangor, local councillors speaking out against their political seniors. You just Google, you can see so many times MPPJ, MPSJ have rebelled against state government. So if there's a good reason to, they have dared to. But by and large, it's a system where the seniors have control in the party and in the government by not devolving the power.
Yeah. And now also this makes the city council as part of your political machinery, right?
No. I think that one is maybe another step too far. Because if you want to say like that, then you can say, JPJ is part of your political machinery. The schools are all part of your political machinery. Every university is part of your political machinery. So no. In fact, it is just a matter of, I guess, control. Control of power.
But you have influence, right? In a way. So my question is this. How would local election work? Does it still mean that if I were to stand up as a mayor of the city, I will have to be a party member? How does that go then? Because I mean, for a rakyat perspective, to a certain extent, right? One of the questions that I will ask is, then who are these people standing in? If they have to be party members, then actually it's balik-balik benda lebih kurang sama.
If you think about it that way, yes. In every election, you can always have independence contests. And we do have lots of independents contesting all the time in our general elections. So I would imagine if there's a mayoral election in KL, for sure there'll be independents contesting. There will also be political parties contesting, unless the law specifically prohibits political parties from taking part in city elections. But let's say if it doesn't, of course the political parties. Perikatan will have their candidate, Harapan will have their candidate, PN will have their candidate, and every major party will definitely throw their hat in the ring. Why not? The question is, can an independent win at the city level? and this is not an easy question to answer. I would say typically it's going to be very challenging.
Very challenging.
In Malaysian politics, especially in Peninsular Malaysia, for an independent to win.
But there will be a slightly easier than winning a state lah, I would say. Because imagine, right?
Yeah.
If you are the biggest developer in town and
Okay.
you have a goodwill of doing a lot of good work over the years among these people for generation, like you are a little town hero,
All right.
then your chances of winning is slightly higher.
Mind you, KL has 2 million plus residents.
Okay lah.
Okay,
KL.
all right. KL has more population than
Okay.
half the states in this country. KL has more people than Malacca, more people than Perlis, more people than Terengganu, more people than Kelantan. KL as a state has more people than half the states in
That's
this
true.
country. So, to say that it's so easy to capture KL because KL is small, no lah.
Okay
I
lah,
think that's
fair,
I think that's not.
It is no more kampung
no
KL
more
lah.
kampung KL lah. If like that,
So no
then
such thing, right?
If like that, developers can capture other states, capture Kelantan, can capture Terengganu.
So for me, this also answers the question
Yeah.
that it's impossible that it's going to be a racial thing.
It's not going to be a racial
Yeah,
thing.
and it's not possible
It's not
that
gonna be.
any Tom, Dick, and Harry can just step in and say that, hey, it's going to be biased towards this guy.
In fact, I bet you there'll be 20 Tom, Dick, and Harrys who will contest the first round. The first time you have the thing, everyone's excited, oh, this is the first mayoral election. I believe I deserve to be the mayor. I'll go for it. And then they will realize, campaigning
very
is not
hard.
easy. Because your 25 people in your WhatsApp group, in your kaki drinking coffee one or in whatever circle that you're in, that 25 people in that bubble fully support you, fully think that you have the best ideas for KL. But
not gonna work.
good luck lah. Good luck to convince the other 2 million KL people who never heard of you, never imagined you, had no idea you got any credibility or not. But most likely will not even pay attention to your banners and posters.
Yeah.
Because unless you got the capability and machinery to campaign, it's not easy.
Yeah.
I mean, we campaign in general election. We know the challenge and the difficulty. And there's a reason why independents don't prevail in the general election. Very rare, and it's mostly in East Malaysia.
Correct.
And where the seats are much smaller in terms of the number of voters that independents win. But if you look in the urban Klang Valley and the urban Semenanjung Malaysia, very difficult for independent. So, not to pour cold water on potential independents coming through and winning if such local government elections or KL mayoral elections come back. I think moving forward, I wish Hannah all the best. But Peter, what do you think? How do you think that Hannah can bring this across the finish line?
Wow, I think it is gonna be difficult, because like you say, it involves a lot of racial stuff as well, right? I think a big part of it has to be on the media side as well, mainly because that's my expertise, right? So I think how to manage the media is a very, very important thing because it's about how do you sway the people's sentiment towards it, kind of like how they implemented Wrong 95, right? So in fact, here I got a question. Do you think that in this case, right, when she commissioned this study, was it a hush-hush thing or was it she purposely let everyone know it so that we can start looking through what are the opposition and dealing with it one by one? What are your thoughts? And if for this to happen...
I think it was never intended to be hush-hush because the first person to leak the news, to bring out the news was Hannah herself. But it was an interview with China Press. So maybe she did not anticipate the
Blow up.
furore because she did not announce local government elections. She announced a study. But I think we should be mindful that this is a very big racial magnet to it. It is always going to attract racial rhetoric. And so I would, maybe my suggestion is that in order to bring this to the finish line, the release of this study results has to be done in phases. It cannot come up with a final conclusion because if it comes up with a conclusion and the conclusion is against, your base will be very angry. The whole Harapan base will be
that's
very
right.
angry. And if your conclusion is to go ahead with it, then all this racial rhetoric will come back.
Yes.
So the study cannot come up with a final report. What the study needs to come up with maybe 5 steps. Peel the onion slowly towards the final answer. And peeling the onion slowly is got to reveal information that is palatable and acceptable without saying that local government elections is coming back. So maybe, revealing the study of the racial composition of KL today.
Ah.
Then everyone sees that, actually, KL got so many Malays now. Oh, actually. And then have a lot of discussion stimulated on that. And like really drill into everyone's head that, actually the Malays outnumber the Chinese in KL.
Yeah.
Release other things in the study that are less controversial.
Yes.
Leading up to the fact that when you finally release the conclusion, the sting is taken out a lot from it. So it's not going to be easy. It's definitely going to be a hot potato because this issue always attracts a racial undertone.
I thought that's a very good one. It kind of reminds me of taking a page out of the subsidy issue. Remember when they first announced the subsidy will be ending? Everyone was like, oh, this is bad, it's going to susahkan rakyat, bebankan. The next thing you know, after a period of quietness, the next thing they released was, do you know most of the people who actually use the subsidy are people with expensive cars?
Yeah.
Then later, do you know?
Yeah.
Most of it is the companies that are abusing it.
Yeah.
Then they go after people, right?
Yeah.
Then do you know? So it kind of like peels it layer by layer.
Correct.
And eventually, they come up with a palatable solution. Not perfect, but palatable.
So there is a step-by-step approach if you want to win this. This is not about saying the argument straight away. It's about the strategy of laying it out.
Nonetheless, I am in favor of that at this point.
I think both of us are extremely in favor. We think it's good for KL. We think it's good for everywhere to have mayoral elections. So wish you all the best.
All right, so right now let's take a quick break, and later when we come back, we are going to touch on two very important topics. Number one, on the term that is set for Prime Minister, and second, let's talk about the National Education Blueprint.
All right.
Hi, welcome back to our part 2 of Are We OK Season 2 with myself, Peter.
And me, Rajiv. So, Peter, what's next on your mind when we look at current issues?
Oh, I think one of the happiest thing that I've read recently is when they announced that now they've started to table the bill of having PM as only a 2-term thing, right? Yeah, so for me, it was very refreshing, and I can see how Anwar Ibrahim is really this time around, not just talking, but really doing. Because for the longest of time as I grew up with Mahathir being the PM. We are the 80s kids, right? Remember school, we draw wawasan, dua puluh. And you would never imagine anyone else as a PM other than Mahathir.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for the first time ever, you see this guy winning and nearing to the elections now, he is saying, yes, we are going to go for that. And that solidifies the idea that he is not in just for his own term of reign, but he really wants to build a better Malaysia. Yes, it may not be the perfect version that all of us envision. Yes, he has his flaws, but at least he's willing to stick his neck out and say, okay, I'm going to do it now. You see, he did not table this on his second term. He tabled this in his first term itself. Yes, there's an argument of maybe it will be only implemented in the second term, giving him 2 terms, right?
Yeah, if you table it, it's done.
That's right. Yeah. So my point
philosophically, you cannot go back and say,
correct.
Oh, it doesn't apply to me, it applies to the future. No.
So my point is this, right? He is not playing that game where he tabled this at the end of the second term. And that shows that he's willing to stick his neck out, that within this, even if he get elected again for the next 6 years, if he make a mistake or if he puts himself in a bad position, nobody will need to be afraid of prosecuting him as well.
Yes.
So I would say that I'm quite glad.
Okay.
Yeah, he bought my vote lah. I can just tell you that with that. He bought my vote.
I'm very glad to hear this because it's refreshing to hear positive acceptance of announcements. I think
maybe I'm easily satisfied, right?
Lately there's a lot of dissatisfaction, but okay, it's good to hear that. And yes, it is something that is not just about Anwar, but it also sets the tone for the rest of time, because for any future prime minister to undo this would not be easy.
Yep.
It will involve a constitutional amendment. It will involve getting 2/3 of parliament. It will not be easy to overturn. And also philosophically, anyone who tries to overturn would immediately from day one of him opening his mouth be seen to be power hungry and greedy.
That's right.
And that's why you see all the other countries with term limits, like in America, 2-term limit for the president. As much as there are so many people who would love to see Trump go for a 3rd term, it's very difficult to bring up. You will seem very power crazy in the future. So it is an important thing for the long term. Even if you argue today that Anwar is too old to go for a third term because he's already close to 80 years old, I think that's not really the point. The point is also in the long run.
That's right.
For all the prime ministers to come. There is one implication, Peter, that I'm not sure if you realize when he made this announcement. We have, you would assume that when you do a 2-term limit for your prime minister, this 2-term limit will also apply to all the Menteri Besars. And that was what was in the Harapan manifesto for some time, and the Harapan mantra for some time. But guess what? The 3 Harapan chief ministers, Penang, Selangor and Negeri Sembilan, are on their 2nd term. So, with this thing crossing the finishing line, it basically says that Penang, Selangor and Negeri Sembilan will see a new chief minister next round.
No wonder there's already wind blowing talking about who is going to be next.
Yeah, now it doesn't become an option for Amiruddin to stay on. Another one more 3rd term in Selangor.
I say,
constitutional amendment on the table.
Yeah,
and the same thing goes in Negeri Sembilan. I think a lot of people focus on Amiruddin in Selangor and they talk about him moving up to the federal level, him moving up. It's also important to note that now he is forced to leave, no longer an option. But also, very quietly is Negeri Sembilan that no one talks about. But our Negeri Sembilan Menteri Besar also is at the end of 2-term, and so he also has to move upwards or call it a day and retire from politics.
Yeah. I think nonetheless, I welcome this news with a big heart and happiness, because at a commercial level as well, I can see investors will be more confident of Malaysia's economy because stronger governance. I think one of the biggest discount that we were given for a very long time was due to governance. And by establishing all this, it is a good thing. Now, which lead me to the second thing that I want to talk about, right?
Let's go into it.
Yeah. The second part I want to talk about is actually the National Education Blueprint. It's also a 10-year plan.
Yes.
Right? Which means that he will carry the first 5 years.
Yes. And somebody else will carry the next 5.
That's right. And this time round, it is not just a talk only, not say talk only, a small announcement, small changes. This time, it's a lot of big changes. Right? I know a lot of people has been talking about like whether should or shouldn't certain things. We'll touch a little bit about it. But it kind of gives me this feeling, right, that our PM is really trying to leave a legacy behind. He's really, really trying to set something that goes beyond his term already.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like you're coinciding this whole thing, right, with education has been also the big issue that no one wants to tackle. Yeah, but he's also putting his foot down and say, hey, let's do something about it.
Okay. So what drew you from all the announcements regarding this 10-year plan?
I think firstly is the fact that they bring back certain exams, which I'm quite happy about because I think many schools have also acknowledged that
you need the assessment.
You need the standardization, right? Not so much to evaluate whether this person is good or bad, but you can't be putting in certain student with certain student because they are at a different progress level, and you can say at the beginning level is fine, but as you progress on, it can be tough. Now, number 2, it also makes it easier to train the teachers. Easier doesn't mean better. I'm just saying easier because different teacher can deal with different standards. Teacher training could be easier. I'm speaking out on my own tunnel vision. I am not a teacher, so I do not know. But I would suppose if I handle three people at the same level, it will be way easier than me handling 10 people with different level.
Okay.
That's my assumption. Okay.
All right.
I think they are putting education starting at 6 years old. I think that's a very good idea as well. However, again, I want to put my caveat. Every single thing there, the question is implementation. So, I know all of you are going to say that. Oh, the question is implementation. Yeah, I know implementation. And there's a tale as old as time, right? I also like the fact that he's doing certain thing to pacify certain group of people. For example, STPM students. Like, he was mentioning about the 4A thing, that
Yeah.
you should get a place. Actually, in my heart, I was also thinking, actually, all the people 4A should got place, lah. Even I get a place, I don't have 4A. The question is, do you get a course that you want?
Yes.
And here's the next part that I was quite glad that while he did not name law and medical, he also said that there will be extra 5,000 place given to STPM student in these subjects. And these are the tier 2 subjects. What do I mean by tier 2? It is not doctor and lawyer lah, but it's tier 2 lah. It is the second group of, also not easy get. I mean, think about it, if you want to get a business course in UM, it's also not easy. Right? There's in a way, a system for it, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit more, maybe extra 5 more places per
I think a bit more than 5
right,
more
yeah.
places.
But my point is that, yes, it's not going to move the needle greatly, but
Okay.
it is at least some effort there lah. Yeah.
All right. So I think in the last 1 week plus, the 6-year-old has dominated the space.
Oh yeah.
All the conversation seems to be revolving mostly around
Yep.
6-year-olds entering primary 1.
Yes.
So
Just to give you a context,
Yes.
my son is 5 years old this year.
you are
So
very going
I'm
to be
facing that
affected.
question.
Okay. So my son is 6-year-old this year. So the drama escapes me on the personal level, but as a policymaker, yes, this is definitely a big one, and maybe we can come back to this. But I agree with you. I pick up on that the additional places in university, I think that's a very welcome move. So it started off with additional 1,005 and then add on another 1,005. So additional 3,000 spaces in public universities would definitely absorb and give most students a chance to get even not the first choice, but to get their second or third choice preference. So we cannot be a nation of only doctors, engineers, and accountants, so and lawyers. We need all the other professions as well. I think it's impossible to go to a point where you create enough seats in your law faculty so that everybody who wants to study law can study law. Then there'll be a glut of lawyers in this country.
But that's what happened with doctors. We have a glut of doctors.
This is
But that's
arguable.
the other topic. The other topic
Okay,
altogether.
this is
The other
arguable.
topic altogether.
Our public healthcare is having a shortage of doctors. Okay, but that is that is a good move in the right direction, and it's I think realistic enough to be implemented because 3,000 is doable across all your public universities. Everyone at 200 each, 300 each. It is something that is manageable and doable. Unlike like calling for the sky, and then everyone say like, yeah, no lah, you cannot do this lah.
Yeah.
So I think he aimed for something reasonable. Standardizing all the pre-use under the Ministry of Higher Education. I think we covered that in our previous episode. So go watch our previous episode if you missed that and would like to look into it. But I think this introduction of history and bahasa for all private school students. I think that's something else that is going to rattle some people.
But I think it's a good thing.
I see the merit in that. I see the merit in especially bahasa, that everyone who graduates in Malaysia should be able to have some basic comprehension
And
in
history.
BM.
Yeah.
And so
simply because I'm a lover of history, right?
Right. And I think it's, no matter what syllabus you're studying, whether it's in the private school, English-based syllabus or Chinese-based syllabus, you're already going to study history. So this is just to solidify your Malaysian history knowledge.
But having said that, just to stop you there quickly is, I have seen private school students who are not studying Malaysian syllabus. They really are clueless about Malaysian history.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a very good thing. So
this is okay. So I think we don't see an issue with this. This has not made the waves. In fact, I was surprised. I was waiting to see when the parents groups or some private school association coming out to object to this, but it has been somewhat muted. So I think the students has got to bite the bullet, study
I
a
think
little
deep
bit
down,
extra.
Malaysians love Malaysia. I like to see it that way. So we're actually quite happy. The only reason that it is not because of Bahasa and Sejarah that they decided not to study in government school.
Yes.
It was other reasons.
Yeah. So add on 2 more subjects. The caveat to this is the Ministry of Education came to clarify that studying doesn't mean you have to sit for SPM.
Yep.
Sitting for SPM is still optional.
Yep.
And so what was announced is that SPM will now be available for those taking only 2 subjects, history and Bahasa, for those who choose to do so, but it's not compulsory. So these private school kids can still study Bahasa and history, but not necessarily have to take SPM. But if you already study it, and if you're actually serious about studying it, maybe you can just take it. So it gives you one more credential in your pocket, especially if you end up in the, finding an interest for civil service career down the road. Maybe you don't think you might be interested when you're 17 years old, but who knows, when you hit 30 years old, you may feel like, you know what, I feel a calling to go and serve in the government. And,
That's right.
And having that cert will be definitely helpful. So private schools, they need to teach it, but it's not compulsory for the students to take the exam. So I guess in conclusion, I hope private schools don't just chincai go through the subject and not take it seriously. I hope they start instilling these 2 subjects into people.
That's a good one.
But maybe, Peter, what can we come back to this hot potato when it comes to all the announcements that were made on the education, the 6-year-old, since you have a kid who's going to be crossing the mark. What do you think, Peter?
2 levels.
Okay.
I'm a bit torn in 2 sides. Okay, at the policy level, I can understand. In fact, I welcome it at the policy level because it's got to start somewhere. And yes, education is actually getting earlier and earlier. I think it's a good move for future of the country. We may not see the effects today, but in the next 10 years, we will see. However, I think implementation is where, as a parent, I'm very concerned. We have been preparing our kid to go to school at 7 years old.
Yeah.
And now suddenly you're telling me my kid can go at 6 years old. Now I'm put in a position where I don't even know what to do. Should I or should I not?
Yes.
They say parents can volunteer.
Yes.
I don't even want to think about it because do I know whether my kid is suitable? Do I not know? I'm not sure. I think what government need to do as soon as possible is this. Maybe come up with somewhat of an exam, a standardized test or assessment to see whether your kid is suitable to go or not. Because how are you to judge? Now, am I going to trust the teacher who doesn't really come to class or just let my kid watch TV at home or in the tuition center and then suddenly say, I think your son okay lah because I like my son. It's going to be a very big implication, no? Because if he start his first year being behind of the class than anyone, he's going to get demotivated by studies and he's just going to think that I'm not suitable for it and this will be a lifetime of issue. But you see, as a parents, we are all kiasu. And so all parents will say, our kids are smart enough. Then you have another problem. So the question is, how do you assess whether my kid is suitable? Now, I can also understand this another part. Once you assess, your kid is not suitable, the parents are happy. So at the end of the day, right, my personal thought is, this announcement, you make already, you better have a very good follow-up and choose what kind of bullet that you're going to bite and implement.
Anwar did roll back. There was supposed to be an exam, that's assessment, and after that, with all the objections that came out of MPs and from society, that has been pulled back. There's no more going to be any more assessment. I actually have a opposite thought than you, Peter. I think having this assessment is going to be cumbersome. It's going to be very difficult to roll out, difficult to prepare the child for. Like, if this is going to enter standard 1 next year, so you need to produce this exam, then you're going to teach the parents, this is the format of the exam. Then all the kindergartens and parents are going to start training their kids. Okay, this is the format of the exam, how to gear everyone to prepare for it. I think it's problematic, and it's also going to be stigmatizing for kids who fail this exam, because this assessment will mean pass or fail. Optional, if your parents decide to send you or not send you, then it's like, oh, my parents think I'm ready, my parents don't think I'm ready. It's not an indictment of my capabilities. Once you have this assessment, straight away you're labeling a whole bunch of kids like not good enough at 6 years old. And when my kids were my elder 2 were 6 years old, they already were aware of this concept of who is smarter than who and who is good enough and not good enough. And I think enough kids will have this consciousness when a lot of their kindergarten friends Some go into standard 1, some don't go into standard 1, among their cousins, among their neighbors. It might I worry of the social stigma that may arise.
I understand what you mean. Maybe it's my parenting style.
Yeah.
So because I grew up in PTS era.
Okay.
Remember there was PTS?
Mm-hmm.
I'm an 87 boy. So
Okay.
I had friends who actually skipped a grade because they took PTS, they passed. I took PTS, I failed. I don't think I'm a failure in life.
Okay.
Now, number 2.
That's great for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that you don't have to phrase it as a pass or fail, but is this person recommended or not? And it comes down to implementation. If the teachers were trained to label the kids as stupid and smart, you will get that.
I think the teachers no need to label. I think society you're bound to label.
Now, here's where I have another. This is more about parenting, nothing to do with policy.
Okay.
Yeah. I think parenting style of everyone is different. And for me, I'm a big believer that I'd rather my kid be disappointed as a kid than when he come out and work. Because when you come out and work, everyone is going to label you whether are you a better worker or not.
Okay.
So if you can't even handle it at a young age and you don't have that kind of ecosystem to handle it, I don't think you're going to succeed as an adult as well.
Then all the kids need the same parental support you are going to give your
Yeah,
kid.
so, okay, that's a question about how lah. But for me, again, here is where I think policy is not meant to be perfect. If you look at a policy, you're not looking at an individual. You're always looking at general population, right? Every policy is going to make someone unhappy and someone happy. If our policy is all about making everyone happy, no policy will ever run.
Okay.
So then my question of it will be, is it good to have a 6-year-old entrance? My personal thought is, it is a good thing.
Okay.
Now, I will put it this way. A parent should even volunteer their kid for that entrance exam. Because I don't think it's a very wise choice to just volunteer your kid to go up. Because I know there are a lot of parents who will think that my kid is suitable
But it's not.
and choose that for my kid and unnecessarily pressure them. It will be way better for a parent to send their to have an exam standardized and then your kid fail, and most of the parents today are very loving one. Hey, you don't worry, you're the best kid in the world, don't worry, it is not that you're dumb. We'll say stuff like that.
Okay.
We are not living in the 60s. Your parents is not going to let teachers smack you in the head also. Right? Today we are all loving parents. Right? So I don't think that one need to be taught.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, on the other hand, I'm more worried that they kiasu and push their kid there and the kid lose his childhood. And he is not meant. This is not his level of intelligence. I'll be very upfront.
Okay.
My kid, I personally don't think my kid is the smartest in his class. And I need to acknowledge that. If I have any sense of kiasuness in me, I will push my kid for he's 6 years old. And if he's not suitable, I'm going to ruin that guy, So I personally think that there should be an assessment, but how you want to run it? Is it a soft assessment, hard assessment? How do you brand it? I think that's where execution is key.
Okay. So I think that's quite a differing opinion from the masses, but good.
But that's me lah.
Yeah. And I think this is where the show that explores the different thoughts behind it. I think to keep it moving, a couple of things that worries me about this is, one, the runway is very short.
Yes.
Because it starts next year, and then you
That's
say,
right.
So you only got 12 months runway. Whereas if the runway was 4 years or 3 years, parents can start preparing their 2-year-old to decide whether to start kindergarten at 3 or 4 years old, towards this whole idea of starting primary 1 at 6 years old. So the runway might be a bit short. Everyone in your shoes, Peter, everyone whose kid is 5 years old today has to start thinking very carefully and hard what to do, because the decision is going to come soon. Second thing is, what is the capacity that is going to be allowed? How many students is the government going to allow? Because if all 6 years old have the option and is accommodated, we have no idea whether it's going to be an extra 10,000 students in Standard 1, an extra 50,000 students, an extra 85,000 students. At this point of time, parents don't know yet. A lot of parents haven't decided. And because of that, when will the school know exactly how much extra the cohort is going to be next year?
Yeah. Actually, here's where, right? You brought up a very good point. I think it's a good move, but I don't think they should do it this year.
But I think you pointed out the reason why. The runway, the legacy for Anwar.
Yeah. My personal thought is actually delayed by 2 years or 3 years because generally kids go to school about 4 years old latest preschool. So because this one to make them prepare, right, you need to start from preschool level. So if I don't need to decide for my kid, but my kid is 3 year old,
Yes.
I am fine because I know my kid go to school. The school will start preparing my kid
Yeah.
for entrance at 6. And now we
Yes.
got a standardized group of people and no one feels left out.
Yeah.
No one will feel like, hey, I'm not as smart as my friend, and stuff like that. And number two also, yes, I have a very big worry. I think this may backfire also.
Okay.
Schools, good schools especially, are already don't have enough capacity. You're bringing in how many new students?
Yeah.
Teachers are already complaining that I do not have enough training. I feel like that is real crux of the problem that should have been addressed much more than whether a student go in at 6 years old.
Well, I think the people in the ministry are already realizing this, and I hope their preparations are there to increase classrooms. I mean, you got to build physical classrooms in many cases. Not just you can't just. I mean, teacher you can transfer. Classroom you cannot transfer. You need to build a structure, and this is the 12 months runway we have to construct those. I think when you talk about voluntary entry, it's good in the long run that kids have a 1 year head start. So in 10 years time, then everything is smooth and well oiled. But for these few years, because this extra cohort that enters school early at 6 years old is going to keep carrying at it all the way to university. So if every year there's 100,000 intake into primary one, then it's 100,000 that goes into standard 6, 100,000 that goes into form 1, and then that graduates your SPM and goes into university. Now, in this schooling pipeline, it's going to be much bigger.
Correct.
And this pipeline much bigger is going to affect dentistry, medical, law in university down the road. So it will not be Anwar's problem. It will be the next Prime Minister's problem.
Correct.
But it has to be dealt with. But
Correct.
this is where then the government should come clean and should maybe clarify what is their expectations. Do they expect the cohort to increase by 20% only? All right. And then does the impact on classroom teachers and all that is just 20% extra? Or do they expect 50% to go in? Because I think they don't expect 100%.
Yeah.
The fact that it's voluntary, so it's not to the extent of 100%, but are we doing 50%, and then in 2 years, everyone is transitioned to 6 year old? Or are we going to do 20% over 5 years, 20% each every year for 5 years, and then everyone is transitioned to 6 year old? So I think this clarification will be very helpful because it will help the 4 year old and 3 year old and 2 year old parents also start to plan ahead.
Yes.
And start to know. And the registration cannot be the usual timeline is the other thing which I feel that they need to maybe ramp up or modify, because right now 6 year olds who register for standard 1 have no pressing timeline to get the results of if they enter the school, first choice school, or they have to go to second choice school. Now it's a lot more complicated.
Yeah, man.
Right? Do I get to go to school or not? And then what will be the appeal process?
Correct.
And then they say, this school is full, so we can only take in 3 classrooms, 120 year 1 students, and then the rest have to turn down.
Because the assumption will suddenly you have a double capacity for one particular cohort.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I am quite concerned of that. I think just like what you say, right? If I were to summarize this whole thing, it feels like this, It feels like certain policies that we are trying to implement or certain initiative that he's trying to implement, it's like you are expecting a Pro Duo to go at the speed of a Ferrari. It's not that it's bad. The Ferrari is good. It's a good policy overall. And I think it's fantastic. I welcome it. But you have to understand that now this is my view, okay, boss?
Yeah.
Boss, if you pull it harder, the whole thing will break apart. You don't even have a car. So I feel like the implementation need to be more well thought through. And I hope that he will actually, in fact, delay it. And with the first step, preparing the teachers, then the second step, preparing the syllabus, then preparing the parents. So at least 2 years down.
Yeah.
So at least, you see, I feel if our government is listening to this, is that everyone criticizes Malaysia's policies as the execution can't be executed.
But it's also the policy.
Correct. My point is this, right? Maybe when you leave as PM, you will be the first PM that is able to come up with a policy that is well implemented. It doesn't need to be so many changes. Just that 2-3 changes that is well implemented, I think is better than have 10 plans that is never implemented.
Okay. Fair comment.
That's my
Fair comment.
my wish list for our PM.
So, I like to believe that while the PM may not have said all of this in his announcements, enough bureaucrats in the mission has started thinking of
That's
all
right.
these problems and started drafting the solutions, or maybe the solutions are there. It just needs to be communicated.
Yep.
So I think this is something I would urge the Prime Minister or the Minister, either one, to start coming forward. And in fact, this is also where our MPs in Parliament should question to get the answers to come out. If, let's say, the proactive announcements don't come forward, because we don't have much time, so it should come out. And I think that the biggest thing to manage is now, will 20%, 30%, 50% of 6-year-olds be absorbed into Standard 1? Other things that I think parents will be concerned is, will the 6 and 7-year-olds in Standard 1 next year be mixed in one class, or will we separate them? Will the 7-year-old Standard 1s be in class on their own and the 6-year-olds be in a class of their own? I mean, there will be challenges that they'll face, besides just the age difference, physical size difference as well. And, so I'm not sure if those things are things to be worried about, and whether they should be taking into account in deciding whether to separate the 6-year-old and 7-year-olds. Man.
You will never have your
solution.
dad cohort's basketball team will all be the 7-year-old. Because by the time the fellow grow tall enough, he miss out the chance to be part of it.
Not just the basketball, the athletics, every sports.
Yes.
So I think the parents are going to push their kids in for 6-year-old in Standard 1 are aiming for the academic medals, not really the sports medals.
In fact, for me, I am 70% don't want my kid to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, 70%.
All right.
Yeah, because you know why not? My kid are year-end baby. If they are year-end baby, they go in some more. They're
Even
2
more
years behind.
Even more advantageous.
No, they're
That's
2
what
years
parents will
behind.
think.
They're not 1 year behind. They're 2 years behind. Yeah, which I'm quite worried.
A lot of parents may feel the other way, and more advantageous. Wow, faster they can graduate, younger they can start working.
Maybe I'm a bit of a different kind of parent.
Yes.
Anyway, nice discussion.
Indeed.
I think we'll wrap it up
here.
Yeah, and do let us know next week what do you want us to talk about as well, if there's anything that's missing. Yeah, and hopefully we got more exciting things coming up as well.
All right. Okay, Peter. See you next week.
See you next week.